Me name's Abel Rogers, a shareman am I, on a three-masted schooner from Twillingate Isle. I've been the world over, north, south, east and west, but the middle of nowhere's where I like it best, where it's wave over wave, sea over bow. I'm as happy a man as the sea will allow. There's no other life for a sailor like me but to sail the salt sea, boys, sail the sea. There's no other life but to sail the salt sea. The work it is hard and the hours are long. My spirit is willing, my back it is strong. And when our work's over, then whiskey we'll pour. We'll dance with the girls up on some foreign shore, where it's wave over wave, sea over bow. I'm as happy a man as the sea will allow. There's no other life for a sailor like me but to sail the salt sea, boys, sail the sea. There's no other life but to sail the salt sea. I'd leave my wife lonely 10 months of the year. She made me a home and raised my children dear, but she'd never come out to bid farewell to me, or ken why a sailor must sail the salt sea, where it's wave over wave, sea over bow. I'm as happy a man as the sea will allow. There's no other life for a sailor like me but to sail the salt sea, boys, sail the sea. There's no other life but to sail the salt sea. I've sailed the wide ocean for decades or more, and many times wondered what I do it for. I don't know the answer, it's pleasure and pain. With life to live over, I'd do it again, where it's wave over wave, sea over bow. I'm as happy a man as the sea will allow. There's no other life for a sailor like me but to sail the salt sea, boys, sail the sea. There's no other life but to sail the salt sea.
Well, I can't complain. I haven't had it as hard as some, God knows. And for the bit of time that you've been around in the past 16 years, well, you've been a good man. I remember the year we married. It was a good year. You were working for my father, and it seems to me that I had you all to myself every minute of every day, and all the sweet long hours of the night. I think that was the happiest year of my life. But by the spring of the following year, just after my birthday it was, well, you got to be itching after something. And in no time at all, you'd gone down and you'd signed up on the Mary Eleanor. It was then I knew I was married to a sailor. I couldn't even bring myself to go down and say goodbye to you. Now, I'm not complaining. We've always had a roof over our heads, and we've never wanted for very much. I always said now that I never had it as hard as May. Her husband, Jack, well, he'd only be home 1 or 2 days out of every year. That's when he was working on the coastal boats. My dear, when he'd come home on the Prospero, she'd have to go down there and get him because he was too blind drunk to make his way home by himself. And I'll never forget the night I was over at Nan's. The night Poppy Rogers came home. Poppy Rogers. Gone 11 years. We hadn't heard a word from him. We didn't know what had happened to him. Sure, we'd give him up for dead. Well, that night, Nan just looked out of the window, and she saw him coming up the path. And all she said was, "Put the kettle on, Frank's home." But I do wish you'd been here with me when Gary died. My God, that was a hard winter. The flu. Epidemic proportions, they said on the radio. I remember the night Mom and I laid him out. Oh, your mother came over, too. I think Gary was her favorite, really. Anyway, that night I sat up with him. I sat up in that big old chair your brother made. and I must have dozed off, because around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, I woke up. And just for an instant, you were there. You were bending over and kissing his cheek. Well, you were back in port 6 months later, and you gave me Kevin. And Kevin had the croup. He coughed and he bawled for a solid year straight. He had me raftered. He had me clear drove off me head. And then the following year, well, you were only home for a week. I got Rose out of that visit. But you've always sent me lovely presents. Sometimes a year goes by and I have no word, no letters or such, but always bits and pieces from here, there, and everywhere. A lovely shawl arrived for me in the mail today. 3 yards of beautiful colored silk. I wonder where it's from. Spain? Morocco? Someplace I've never been to. Oh, it's gorgeous. And the smell of it. It puts me in mind of warm winds and people speaking in foreign tongues. But sure, where am I going to wear it? I suppose now I'll put it on when I go out in the garden digging up a few turnips, or when I'm making a bit of soap out of lye. Well, I'll go and light the candle for you now. It'll always be here in the window to guide you home. I'll always be here for you, God willing. You know, when all is said and done, for the bit of time that you've been around in our married life, well, you're the only man I've ever had. You're the only man I ever wanted.
Where it's wave over wave, sea over bow, I'm as happy a man as the sea will allow. There's no other life for a sailor like me but to sail the salt sea, boys, sail the sea. There's no other life but to sail the salt sea.